This is a weird, almost philosophical question, but at the same time, this is a very weird, definitely philosophical game series, so I think it is one worth asking. Is there ever going to be another Xeno IP? And by that, I of course am referring to Monolith Soft's Xeno JRPG series, and not any form of media with Xeno in the title, because, come on, everyone's made the Dragon Ball Xenoverse joke already, you're not original. If you want to actually impress me, figure out how to fit Kakarot or fighters into the Xeno timeline somehow. Or you could just say the Dragon Balls are weak Zohar modifiers that when combined can do the phenomenon phase shift on a local level. God damn it, it's actually pretty easy, never mind. Anyway, will they make a Xeno thing beyond Xenoblade? Of course, you could say, okay, what if they finally make Xenosaga 4? Or do a combined Xeno Warriors, something that combines Xenosaga and all the Xenoblades. That's different. I mean, Xeno something that isn't Gears Saga or Blade, and is something else. Short answer, no. Long answer, no, but it's sort of complicated, and in the short answer, I really just mean no for the foreseeable future. If we cast our minds back to 2015 in Xenoblade Chronicles X, it's already obvious that you don't need a bladed weapon being a focal point in order for a game to be called Xenoblade. The blade can be metaphorical or still real, but not an actual weapon. And I'm sure they could still apply the Xenoblade title to a game where the only blade is metaphorically the party cutting their way through darkness to shine light back onto the world, or something melodramatic and oh so delightfully anime like that would be, and they could spin it that way. Xenoblade could even just refer to the style of combat and world, so were they to ever go back to turn-based for some reason in a non-Gears or Saga context, or make a new fully action-based thing, maybe they'd call it Xeno something else, and that would be whatever. But in reality, the only thing that ties a Xeno IP to still happening is the publisher that the development team is partnered up with. Xenoblade has consisted of 3 different, connected but still different universes now, but they've all been Xenoblade. It hasn't changed name just because there's a different universe. It changed name between Gears and Saga to Blade, and those were also universe changes, but the other thing is, it's a publisher thing. With Squaresoft, they were able to make Xenogears, and they had a big plan for 6 parts of Xenogears, but then they couldn't do that, so Monolith Soft happened, they moved to Bandai Namco. It was just Namco at that point, so I'm just going to call it Bamco the entire time because that's me. And then they drew upon concepts from older Xenogears parts to make Xenosaga, but then they couldn't make all the 6 games they wanted to there, and they just had to cut that down, and then eventually Nintendo happened, and they made a new thing that they were allowed to call Xenoblade. And then that one did well enough where they could make a follow-up, but they didn't make a direct sequel. It's a completely different universe, but they still called it Xenoblade, because it was still being published by Nintendo. And then Xenoblade 2, which is a lot closer to 1 than X was, still called Xenoblade. And they basically already confirmed that whatever the next project they're working on is still going to be called Xenoblade. So, realistically, unless they have some really good reason to do it, like a radically overhauled system in terms of gameplay, or crossing over all the Xenoblade universes and somehow rectifying the connection we already know exists, they're not going to move past Xenoblade, because they still own the rights to the IP, they're still owned by Nintendo, the IP is still profitable, they have zero reason to move on until it starts doing so bad, or until Nintendo gives them up, which I don't think they're going to do, now that Monolith is super ingrained into making other core Nintendo franchises beyond just ones that they own themselves. The only thing I could see them doing that would cause them to make a new Xeno moniker is if they were to do a crossover. Now, I said before, Xeno Warriors, if they make a Dynasty Warriors spinoff involving Xeno characters, that's Xeno Warriors. That's a spinoff. I'm talking about like a canon crossover thing. Now, they could make Xeno Warriors canon, and in that case, sure, Xeno Warriors, the 4th Xeno IP. But I more mean a more traditional RPG that somehow crosses things over, or at least thematically ties things together. That is the only way I could see them actually doing this. They could just go back to Xenogears, which if they got Xenogears back, I feel like they would use the Xenogears title just for novelty's sake, or just Xenoblade Xenosaga Xenogears. That's the title of the game. It doesn't have to make any sense. It's just going to do that. But I could see a new Xeno title being used just as like a, oh no, this is different than all of them because it is all of them combined. And that having a big deal. I don't know. That's the only real context I could see them still making a new Xeno thing, at least while they are still owned and published by Nintendo. I don't really know. I really like the name Xeno Skies, with the idea of, oh, it's the romantic concept of, even though we're apart, we're still looking up at the same stars. But wait, there are different universes, so if you're in a different universe, we could be looking at completely different stars, even if we're still on Earth. And the foreign skies, the Xeno Skies. I really like that idea as being the name for something that connects multiple universes, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I feel like they might just use the Xenoblade name, or they just use the Xenogears name for novelty's sake. I don't know. Basically, long answer, until Nintendo gets rid of Monolith Soft, or Xenoblade stops being a profitable name, they're not going to stop using Xenoblade. And I don't think either of those things is going to happen anytime soon, so don't hold your breath for Xeno Era 4. But until next time, this is Luxon, signing off.